I didn't know what to do. And I knew I have so many caring, kind, generous people in my life that as the word got out, they were going to start asking me what I needed. But I also knew nobody could give me what I needed. And that was really hard. But the most beautiful part about that experience is giving people the opportunity to show up and do the things that they were able to do blew my mind. Hi, Katiuscia.
Hi, Anita. So listen, before we start, I'm going to say I'm really excited that you're here today, which you've known, and we've talked so much.
Yes.
And excited you're here because of also, I think everything you stand for as a woman, as a business person, everything it's you are a woman who does it all and you do it all with grace. And I admire that. I appreciate that and very grateful for your friendship. I do want to share how we met because it was so interesting. We met at a chamber after hours, a Boise chamber after hours. And I remember just knowing, oh, Anita is this like big wig with Delta. And so when we were introduced and then you and I were chatting, I think we realized that we're like basically going to be best friends.
Accurate. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, which is amazing. So let me give your formal title. And before I actually say that, I want to say that what we're going to be talking about today, I guess the main driving point is relationships and how important they are in life. So you are a senior global sales account executive with Delta Airlines. You've been with Delta for almost 20 years.
Correct.
You are an amazing woman, business person. You're a wife and a mom. You're a fabulous friend, and you love your community and you're very involved.
Thank you. That's a lot.
And well, you're kind of an impressive person. So whenever I talk to you and you're jet setting around somewhere, I'm like, I don't know how she does it, but I love it. So with that, welcome.
Thank you.
Very happy you're here. And I'm going to turn it over to you to just kind of.
Perfect. Well, thank you for that. First of all, I'm really excited to be here. And I've thought many times since you invited me to be on here, how interesting it is that we just kind of stumbled into each other and were able to create this friendship and to work together on different projects on different levels and things like that. And it's been really enjoyable. My first impression with you was she's amazing and I'm never going to remember how to spell her name. And now I've like memorized it. It's great. But likewise, so many compliments, so many things. I see all of those admirable traits in you, and I'm excited that we can be friends and we can exist and coexist in the same business realms and things like that, but also that we can spend time outside of work together and do some fun things like this too. So I'm excited to be here. So thank you for the invitation.
Yes, of course.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I guess it's a mouthful to say I'm a senior global sales account executive. It takes on a lot of different roles. A lot of it's community involvement, but it's also account management on corporate account sides of things. And that makes it fun too, because then I get to build out those relationships to get to meet people. It's a really interesting path, and we'll get into that as we continue through this conversation too, of how I landed here, especially in Idaho, and what that means and where it's going from here as well. I like to tell people I think it's a very exciting thing to let them know that I'm an Idaho native. Like, that's pretty cool. My parents are Idaho natives. My parents are alumni from the University of Idaho, so I've got some deep roots there. My grandpa was a banker in eastern Idaho for pretty much my entire life. And so, I get to relate to people on those levels. Additionally, I think most people in the Boise area, Treasure Valley, Idaho as a whole, understand there's a lot of people that have come into the area and we're transitioning and we're trying to figure exactly what our identity is moving forward. And I can also relate to those folks because when I was 8 years old, we left. I was born in eastern Idaho, and we moved to Wisconsin, and I lived there for 4 years. And then at that point in our life, moved again to the Seattle area, and I spent most of my junior high and high school years in the Seattle area. Amazing time, Seattle in the 90s. There's no better time in Seattle. I wish everybody could experience that. Lots of opportunities, met a lot of people, really got to enjoy just building relationships in different places. I think it's important to also mention when we lived in Wisconsin, we moved 3 times in 4 years. So that was a lot. Only changed schools twice, so that helped, right? But I was in 3rd grade. So 3rd grade until almost junior high, right? So trying to understand, how do I navigate this? And thankfully I had my family with me, but at the same time, I have to be the new kid in the room. How do I understand what's going on? And you'd think, most places in the United States are the same, but you could move from Boise to Twin Falls and understand a completely different culture. So, it's neat to have those experiences and kind of understand how to listen and to walk into a room, especially in your youth, and read a room and understand like, hey, these people might do things a little bit differently. I'm going to come here and absorb some of that and see what then I can add of myself to that. And hopefully they like it and see where it goes. So yeah, that's kind of where my youth started. And then senior in high school, I moved back to Idaho.
Okay.
So that was an interesting process in itself. So yeah. Yeah.
And let's talk about, you got married young.
Oh gosh.
Right?
Yes, I sure did. I got married when I was 19. So I will tell you, my husband is a saint. I'll call him a unicorn because this is a lot. Very strong-willed, very independent, very much a go-getter, different things like that. At that age, you think you know everything. And of course, if you have parents, you tell them everything that you know and how right you are in every aspect. And it's entertaining now because we've been married almost 27 years to look back and go, oh, yeah. So I apologize to my mom a lot. So that makes that kind of fun.
Full circle. Those full circle
Full
moments.
circle. And Jason does a great job. He's an amazing supporter. He never has questioned. Well, I can't say he's never has questioned, but he always comes into the conversation fully equipped with, tell me why we think we should do this. Why are we going in that direction? And as you mentioned, I do travel extensively for work. And so there's a lot that falls on him to be able to maintain, handle, and do things. And sometimes I come home and try to be overly helpful, maybe. And so, once I do something and I break a sprinkler, then he's like, did you really have to do that? But he's
I'm
nice
trying
about it.
to
I'm like,
help.
I'm really trying, okay? I'm trying. I'm trying to be good at that. So I'm pretty fortunate in that aspect and have a good foundation there. So that's really nice. So, yeah.
What kind of launched you into, married at 19. How
Yep.
old were you? First baby was born when?
I was 22.
Okay.
So we'd been married a few years. It's interesting because my parents were both educators. My dad didn't stay as a teacher. He went into the ag industry. He was a dairy inspector. And so when we were in Wisconsin, he worked for Frigo. When he moved to Seattle, it was Dairy Gold. And then they transferred him back to Idaho as well. What I can tell you is I feel like all of that led up to this jumping off point that so many parents see when their kids get to this age. And I can share in my own life experience. I have 3 kids that are at that jumping off point. And I wanted to go to school to be in travel. And I knew I wanted to travel the world. I knew I wanted to see things. Another thing that I had done in high school, in between my junior and senior year, I was an exchange student during the summer in Germany. Amazing experience. I think everybody should travel as much as they possibly can. Find ways to be creative about it, right? Make it make sense for your family because it really teaches you so much and teaches you how to open your mind and things like that. But I had graduated from high school in May. I think I moved out 2 days later and went to school in Eastern Idaho, which it was funny when I moved here. I was like, I'm not ever going to stay in Idaho. This place isn't for me. I'd come from Seattle. I was working for Safeway. I had full benefits at 17 years old. I was like, I'm my own woman. I can do amazing things. I don't need this. And then I came home from school one day and my parents were like, hey, guess what? We're moving. And I was like, you've destroyed my life.
Oh.
I was the dairy princess. That's an entertaining story. Also, captain of the swim team. And so I had to walk away from all of that to go be with my family in Idaho. And that was a really hard thing. But my parents had sat me down and they were like, listen, this is a big milestone time in your life. We equally want to be a part of it. We can see why you may want to stay here, but can you also see why we want you to come with us? That was a stab to the heart. So I was like, okay, I'll do this, but I wasn't graceful about it in any way, shape, or form. So again, back to the apologies. But
Yeah.
it did kind of catapult me. It kind of turned things in a couple directions because I was like, okay, I want to go to college. I knew I wanted to do that, but where am I going to college? Now I've been in Idaho and I had some really good relationships in Washington and some people that I talked through things with a lot. And they were like, you still have to live your life. Like you can't live with this you're in a holding pattern just because you've moved to a new school your last year of high school. So I didn't. I moved on. I went to college. I called my parents. I went to college in Eastern Idaho. So I went right after graduation into college in Eastern Idaho. And freedom, all the magic of your first year of college until winter struck. And I was like, what is this nonsense? I remember being so cold. I used to wear, so I weighed like 100 pounds. So let's start there. And I wore snow pants to school because I had to walk from my dorm, to the
Oh,
campus. And the wind was blowing so hard and there was so much snow. I was dying. And I was doing really well in school, actually, because I was so cold I didn't want to go outside. So there was nothing else to do. And keep in mind, this is 30 years ago. There wasn't any internet. There's no doom scrolling. I didn't even have a television. I think we might have had like 3 VHS tapes in our room. So I did my homework. So I was excelling in school, which was great, but I was freezing to death. So I took it upon myself, again, strong, independent woman here, right? I decided that I was going to go to Hawaii for school. I was done with this nonsense.
oh,
So I applied for school, got accepted, set everything up, and then I called my parents, which, Katiuscia, is fine if you're self-funding your education.
sure.
I was not.
Okay.
So I had to call my parents and tell them, hey, I'm going to school in Hawaii. And my dad, I remember him saying, if you think for a second that I'm paying for you to go over and stare at boys and do underwater basket weaving, you have another thing coming. So I was like, cool, I need to earn some money. Okay, got it. I'm still doing this because, again, strong, independent woman here. But I also am broke because I'm 18 years old.
Yeah.
So I went home from school that summer. My dad actually set me up with an internship at Dairy Gold, which equated like janitorial duties and weed pulling. But it was like, I'm pretty sure the company, like, yeah, we can put your kid in an intern, right?
Sure.
So it was fine. I was a certified lifeguard at that point. So I actually started working at the rec center in Nampa. That was a lot of fun. Great time. I actually stayed there for 7 years because I had planned to go to Hawaii and I figured I broke down my budget. I needed to be in working until December and freeloading off my parents essentially until then too. So I did a semester at BSU and then I was going to transfer. And I remember telling them I want to go into travel and tourism. And they were like, there's no money in travel. You can't do that. And, fast forward 30 years, it's still comical because I think they still believe that. And I'm like, but you know where we're at, right? So anyway, so I happened to meet Jason over that summer. And all the plans for Hawaii went south. And then I was in love. He was amazing. We didn't date very long. To my parents' wildly concerned feelings, we got engaged and married by December. So I went from Hawaii, probably April, Mayish, to married in December.
Wow.
That was wild. So I dropped out of college because I was like, I don't need an education. I'm married. My husband's my dream man. He's going to take care of me from here on out for the rest of our lives. Well, it wasn't very long, couple years in, couple kids. I was like, I feel like there's more and I want something more. And thankfully, Jason was patient again. He's like, help me understand what that means. And that moment equated to me having 2 toddlers. And I was walking through our house with a basket of laundry and he, poor guy, walked through the door, doesn't know this is coming. And I just dropped it and I was like, I need something more in life. And he's like, oh, okay, what does that mean? And I said, I don't know. I actually don't know. But I need you to be comfortable with that and be okay with that. Because that's not really the path we'd talked about. The path we'd talked about was me to be a stay-at-home mom. I thought that's what I'd always wanted. And honestly, there's such amazing pieces of it. Me mentally needed something a little bit more tangible. So I went into real estate and I sold real estate for a few years. And it was so funny. I had a Suburban and I had a TV in my Suburban. I hauled my kids around everywhere and we sold real estate and we ate terribly. We had mac and cheese and chicken nuggets in the car, but it helped me understand that that's kind of where it opened my idea to sales. But it's not selling to me. It never has been, and it probably never will be because it's about building the relationship,
Absolutely.
right? I love talking to people. And it wasn't me talking to them. It was me asking them questions and really understanding what was important to them. What do people think? What makes them tick? Why do they want to do things? And I feel like we don't always do a good job as humanity of looking to others and paying compliments of, you do this really well. I mean, I was completely flattered as you're listing off all these very notable traits you see in me. I don't necessarily see those in myself, right? So it's really nice once in a while when somebody will say to you, you're really smart. You actually did a really good job pulling out that quality, pulling out that, business acumen finding some statistics that really make sense. All of those things are things that I think really help people like connect and build that momentum on a relationship. And I think we need to do a better job as humans
I
putting that
agree. I
together.
feel like it's a lost, we're in a weird place, and this has been going on, I think, for quite a few years of if if I pay someone a genuine compliment, it's because I see something and I want you to know about it
Yeah,
because it's legit. And I know, especially as women, especially in the society of women where there it's not that we need the compliments, right? But it is nice to recognize a trait in another woman, in another human, another man,
yeah,
like anyone. When you see something, you say it because you don't know what kind of day they're having. You don't know how hard they're working. And maybe just to get that, maybe it's kind of checking off the box of their affirmations that they say to themselves every day or that they pray
yes,
for, like, God, please make me better at this. And when you recognize that in another, it's bringing that quality to the forefront. And it's also a kind of a reassurance that, hey, you are doing this right, especially if it's something about their business, about who they are as a human. Then
absolutely.
it's like, oh my gosh. So
Yeah.
I will always tell you.
Well, thank you.
Yes, of course.
Thank you. Thank you. I know somebody told me recently, they're like, you're always just so nice. And I'm like, oh, I'm good that that's what's on the outside because that's not always what I feel like on the inside. Right. So
True.
sometimes you don't know, what am I projecting? What's really moving forward? So, yeah. So from there, college dropout. At this point, now I have 3 kids and I'm selling real estate and it's fun. Like I'm having a good time. I remember my father in law one time told me, he goes, I think you could sell ice cubes to Eskimos. And I'm like, well, thank you. That's super nice. But I'm also not going to approach an Eskimo and ask him if he wants an ice cube. I'm going to ask him if he wants a beach in Hawaii. Like you need to make it make sense.
Sure.
So understanding the values. And so there's that. So I was approached with a similar type situation. Somebody brought value to me. I would love to know, I don't think there's probably any record to figure this out at this point, how NNU got my name. All I can figure is I had to have signed up for something, some random place somewhere. I had 2 full years of college underneath my belt, and we're talking, I did the maths. So in my hiatus of trying to get to Hawaii, when I signed up for classes at Boise State, I decided that my dad's idea wasn't terrible. So I'm going to take all the macros, the micros, the statistics, and those things at BSU that fall so that I can take underwater basket weaving when I get to Hawaii, right?
Perfect.
Well, I got married instead. So I'd taken all these really hard classes. And NNU got my phone number and they called me just out of the blue and they said, Anita, do you realize that if you don't, and actually, I don't know if this is actually true. So this is me remembering it. Somebody fact checks me at NNU. I'm really sorry if this is not true, but this is my story. So they said, you realize your maths and your sciences are going to expire if you don't have some degree seeking program aligned out within 10 years. And I was probably at 7. And I went, ah. And I'd always had in the back of my mind, someday I'll probably go back to school. Someday I'll probably check this box. And I was like, well, what do? I have 3 kids. I can't sit in a classroom for 8 hours a day. That's not conducive to our lifestyle. And they said, you're in luck. We've just started this STEP program. And it's non-traditional for adults who are working and carrying on with their lives. And this is, 2009, 10-ish, maybe.
Okay.
So it wasn't like Wi-Fi in an airport was even a thing, right? And I was like, oh. And I'd started with Delta already at this point. I would really like to do this. But I've started with Delta, and I'll get into this in a minute too. I don't make very much money. I went to work for the airline because it offered opportunities to travel and experiences for my family and things like that. How do I now go to Jason, who's supported me in every wild dream I come up with, and say, well, not only did I want to go back to work and sell real estate, and then I went to go work at the airport, now I'd like to go to school and get a degree. For why? Right? Like, what am I doing? Where's my goal? Where am I going with this? But I did. And he was like, well, that seems like probably a good idea. If that's something that means a lot to you, then you should pursue it. And so I did. And the beauty of that program was it was online. So I got myself a laptop and I would do homework when I had time. Most of my homework was probably done after 10 o'clock at night, between the hours of 4 and 6 a.m., things like that, when I wasn't being a mom and I wasn't actively working, things like those types of things. But it worked and it fit. And I had such an amazing experience just being able to expand my mind and to learn. And I was like, I understand even my own mother so much more at this point because she was an amazing educator. She's a retired teacher now. But she just did so many phenomenal things with kids, and her heart poured into them. And I got that from the professors. I got that from the administrators. In fact, some of them became some of my closest friends because they were my circle of trust while I was going to school, when I was struggling, when I was crying, when I wasn't passing accounting, because that happened a couple of times. They were there, and they were there for me. And so we built out that friendship, which really built that relationship that I still hold dear today.
Which is huge. So you finished college.
Yes,
Okay.
I did. So I graduated with my bachelor's degree.
While working, while being a mom, while doing everything.
Yes.
Doing it all.
We even got a goldfish during that time frame.
Did it live?
It did 3 years.
Really?
I think we got it from the fair. I told the kids that there was no way, 3 weeks, and that was it. I never moved into a legit fish bowl because I never believed it would live. It lived in a punch bowl on our counter, and we changed the water regularly. So,
Wow.
yeah.
If,
Thanks.
if anyone takes anything away, it's that you
kept a goldfish
with
alive.
doing everything with grace, you also kept a goldfish alive for 3 years. Very
Thank you.
impressive. Okay,
Yes.
kudos for that. I didn't know that. That's great.
So I enjoyed the experience so much, and I was really, really inspired by a law professor. And so I decided I was going to go to law school. So I took the LSAT twice. Yeah. Katiuscia, strong, independent woman.
Wow.
Married to a unicorn that's just like, you do you, boo.
Yes.
It's fine. Yeah. It's okay. Thankfully, I did mostly maintain my sanity during all of this. But like I said, Jason's a saint. He deserves a lot of credit. So fast forward, I decided I was going to go to law school. And there was a law school opening in Boise. I'd also discovered during this that Delta offered scholarships. So I was also traveling, but this was just for fun because I worked at the airport during this time period. So we would go these wild, crazy fun places. And I was showing my kids the world. And I think if I identify one goal in my life, when I was growing up in Seattle, I lived in a little town called Enumclaw. And I would say probably 25-30% of the kids that lived in that town had parents who were connected to the airline somehow. And I realize this all now in hindsight, like knowing what I know now. Mm-hmm. But they were going to Maui for spring break or Italy. And I was like, that's what I want. I want to be able to take my kids somewhere. So likewise, I'm definitely not Taylor Swift or a billionaire, but I've been able to take my kids to Hawaii for spring break. Like, I've been able to open their minds and help them understand, here are the things that you want to do in your life, what's important to you. And we're having these conversations as they're 5 years old, as they're 7 years old, when they're 10 years old. And there's been nothing better in my life than watching my kids be like, I think I might be interested in this. And I'm like, let's flush that out. Let's see what that means to you. So I took the LSAT twice. I did okay-ish. I wasn't amazing, but okay. I applied to the law school here. I waited and waited and waited and waited, nothing. Finally, I called them, and they're like, oh, we still had your application on hold because I had told them to put it on hold before. I did communicate with them that I was taking the LSAT again, so I didn't want them to take the first score. I was going to take it again. And they were like, we never took it off hold, and applications closed yesterday. Oh. So law school was out because I wasn't going to move to go to school. I wanted to stay here. I wanted to raise my family. We'd moved a lot. There was a lot of really good experiences from moving a lot, but there were also a lot of stress, right? And I didn't want that for my family growing up. I specifically looked for somebody in a partner that, wanted to be...
was rooted.
Yeah. And he's got a great family and they're all here. So, all those kinds of things were important to us. So that was off the table. But I, again, had such a great experience. So I called my friends at NNU and I'm like, what should I do? This was plan A. What's plan B? And they're like, we'll let you into the MBA program without having to take the exam. And I was like, bingo, that's where we go. So I did the MBA program. And again, phenomenal experience. Like, I cannot speak highly enough of these opportunities they give adults who are not in your very traditional learning spaces. So yeah, just before my 40th birthday, I graduated with an MBA, which was fantastic.
My gosh.
Yeah, wild. But if we back up a little bit.
I want to say that's very cool though, it's very just, you knew what you wanted, right? So that in and of itself is so impressive when someone is so secure in knowing what they want. Like, I know there's something more for me, right? To have a husband that's as supportive as Jason is. Jason's an amazing human. Like, I'm fortunate to know him as well. And your whole family is just, you've done a really great job, both of you, at maintaining this structure and balance while giving them literally opportunities of the world to see, to experience. And that's just, it's a really cool thing. So
Thank
I
you.
would have wanted to be a mom, with all of your qualities and my mom's as well, just to give that opportunity, right? Most people don't have it. So it really is something to be treasured. And I know your kids know that. And they're good kids, right? They're good kids.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
I am completely biased, but I think they're pretty amazing.
I
Thank you.
like them. Like,
I appreciate that.
I also like them. Yeah.
They are fun. So bridging that between like kind of where I've come from and then to where my career is now, I tell my kids all the time, like when you're looking at employers or when you're looking at any relationship in life, what value can you bring to the table first, right? Like you have to be somebody that they're going to want for you to matter. So make sure you're that person. Like continue to work on yourself, continue to try to set goals, be mindful of everybody who's around you at the same time, because you may all of a sudden need to take a left turn somewhere and not realize there's somebody right there who's walked that path that can help you with that. So, be mindful of your surroundings. So, backing up to 2009 when I started with Delta, there's a funny story. Do you want to hear about
I like funny stories.
Okay.
I like all stories.
Fantastic. So I was about 7.5 months pregnant with one of my children. And I was driving over to Bear World in Eastern Idaho with my grandma and my dad and my kids. And I got pulled over. Now, I went to school over there, so I remember this notorious route of highway that was 55 miles an hour forever. But suddenly there was a sign that said 60, Katiuscia. No, maybe it was even 65. I'm not even sure at this point. I was so excited, but I was so nervous that I only went 60 because I was like, we're going to go in the in-between because there were cops always everywhere pulling people over. Sure enough, apparently I was in a construction zone. No idea. Pulled me over. I argued with him. I was like, dude, like I'm pregnant and my grandma's with me. Clearly I'm not Mario Andretti. And he's like, I'm so happy. And I said, I've never had a speeding ticket before. This is my first speeding ticket in my life. And he's like, I'm so happy that I can be the one to give it to you.
Oh, not the way I thought that was going to go.
No, I'm not Italian, but sometimes I can act that way. But I kept most of it in because I was like, we're going to Bear World. We're going to have a good time. So fast forward like a year and a half later, I saw this listing for a job opening, and it cracks me up now, on Craigslist for Delta.
Oh, wow. Craigslist.
Thank you. Again, you don't know the time.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought, well, I'll apply for it. I already have a real estate career, but this sounds fun. I've always thought maybe it'd be fun to work for an airline, and Delta's the best. So
There you
here
go.
we are. So I got an interview. And it was almost the time Craigslist started going like scammy, but not quite. So I'm like, I'm sure this is real. And it ended up at the airport, so then I was fine with it. So I go in, things go really well. I was super happy. I didn't know anything about any of the benefits. I get a job offer. And I'm set to start, I think it was like July 1st or August 1st that year. And I get at 4 a.m., mind you. So it's like 3 days before I'm like, okay, is my uniform like ironed? Can I talk decently to people? Am I going to be nice? Am I going to know what to do? Like 8 o'clock the night before, my alarm's supposed to go off at 2:56 a.m. And the station manager calls me. She's like, I'm really sorry. We have to rescind your job offer. I'm like, what? Why? You didn't put down that you had a speeding ticket on your application. Now, again, we're handwriting applications still at this point in life, right? And I'm like, but I told you about it. She's like, I'm really sorry. I know. The good news is we're hiring like consistently for the next little while. You can apply again in 6 months. And I'm like, no, I'm going to die. I thought this is where I was at.
For a speeding ticket? That's
5
actually
miles an hour.
quite disappointing, though. I thought, a felony, sure. A crime where you're maybe incarcerated, also understandable. But a speeding ticket? That seems wild. Is it still like that?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I think this was a very, very, very unique situation.
Clearly.
I really feel like there may have been some other things going on in the background that changed.
Okay.
And my number got called for whatever reason. I don't know. Whatever.
Oh, no.
But it's a funny story. So then for the next 6 months, on the day that I was supposed to start, so within Delta, if you're ever on LinkedIn and you see a lot of people wishing each other happy Deltaversary, we're very big on anniversaries. So on the anniversary date of basically being rejected, I took cookies in for 6 months. I paid for parking. I also took my 3 little minions with me in, and I'd be like, hi, this is my family. This is who we are. Here's your cookies. We themed the cookies depending on the month. If it was February, as Valentine's cookies. December, we had peppermint cookies. I don't know, all kinds of things like that.
Very cool.
So it was fun. So 6 months later, I think it actually ended up being 8. I got hired. The irony of the entire situation is the friends that I was able to make in the interim, because I was going in and I had time to chat with them. I had time to ask them, tell me about your families. Tell me how many kids you have. Tell me what's going on. By the time I started, we had a really good like mom network where we were driving each other's kids around. We were taking them to driver's ed. We were picking them up. We were dropping them off places because the airlines are an amazing place to work. Like literally an airline will give you access to the world to see and to feel and to enjoy things you never would elsewhere. But they also require a lot in the background. You're going to miss birthday parties. You're missing holidays. Your alarm clock's going off at 2:56 in the morning. You might be a part-time employee, but if there's a flight delay, you're there until that plane leaves. So you're in it with these customers. But the kind of bonding experience you get to have with people in the trenches like that is pretty incredible. So if you're able to just embrace the suck, essentially, right? If you're able to work through that, then you literally have access to the world. And it's a gift that I can't even explain how much I appreciate. And the beauty of it is Delta has 100,000 employees. I get to have that connection with all of those people. Like we're Delta family. Like once you're in, you're family. And we treat each other with respect. I mean, I'm sure there's the one-offs here and there, but also I have family I don't like to, so we'll start there. But for the most part, like
We all do.
we all take care of each other. And then we get to project that onto our customers. So we're building those relationships, right? So, I have countless people that we randomly will text each other from all over the globe that would have never met had we not been traveling, had we not been at an airport, had we not gone through something in the travel world together. And now we get to cling on to those relationships. And that's pretty amazing.
I think that's incredible.
Yeah.
I think that's incredible to have that because you talk about, yes, this Delta family, this literal global family that you have, that while there is a lot that is required of you, the benefit, right? Everything is the cost analysis. There's a word for it. I can't remember English today. There's just the analysis of like the worth of something, and it is worth it with everything that you get versus everything that you give also, but it just makes sense. Makes sense for you. Doesn't make sense for everyone, right? Like,
absolutely.
And that's when those people are pretty much weeded out, because if they can't balance it and take care of it. But like I said in the beginning, when you handle everything and you do it with grace, I mean, we were together last week and you're explaining what you have coming up. And I'm like, oh, in a day? Oh, in a day. Okay. It's like, sometimes I think I do a lot in a day just with appointments and meetings and whatever it is. But then I hear you and you're like, yeah, no, I have to fly here for a day. I'm like, oh, there she goes. little jet setter.
Sometimes I wonder what's really running through my blood. I don't even know, but that's okay.
I love it.
I do too. It gives me a lot of energy.
Through you.
Thank you. Thank you. You crack me up. So I think I told you last week when we sat down and we're talking too, last fall, I sat down at a dinner with Will Hardy. He's the jazz coach, NBA jazz coach in Utah. And it was funny because I really enjoy watching his games. But I really enjoy his facial expressions more than actually what's going on the court, because I'm always, ad-libbing what he's saying. And I'm like telling my kids, oh, I think this is what's going on. I think he's mad at that guy right now. I don't know why his forehead is saying a different story than his mouth, but I think this is what's going on. So I went into this dinner meeting kind of thinking I was anticipating like this kind of really tough professional NBA coach that was just going to be too cool for me, right? Like, whatever. And we sit down and he starts talking about his life experience and his things that he's done in life. And I just ate it up because I have a son that's just graduated from college. He wants to be a coach. And so I'm like, okay, what tidbits can I get from him and share with him? Because I know nothing about coaching. I'm of zero help, but he wants to launch and I want to help him. But how do I help bridge that with who I know and how I know how to get there? And he's the one who actually said you have to embrace the suck. And he brought up this idea. He's like, people always really get excited about where you are and where you've landed in life, but do they really recognize what you went through to actually get there? He said people won't recognize. He goes, I'll give luck a certain amount of credit for this, timing, those types of things. because I also took the $12,000 a year job that I couldn't afford to eat anything but ramen noodles off of because I knew that that somehow would help me build a relationship with somebody else who could then help me get to the next level. And I think that that's another thing with building a culture when you're trying to put things together culturally, especially within business organizations. Like, how do we balance the bottom line with having a culture where people want to help each other and there is a servant leadership and people willing to help? And in preparation for coming here today, I kind of was thinking, like, who are the people who really helped me, like, that I could really depend on? And even when I was working at the airport, and so think of the operation as probably 60% of the company, right? So say there's 60,000 people in Delta in the operation. In the sales side of things, there's 1,200. And so when you're looking at the size of the organization within the organization, how busy somebody is who's helping to take care of this other side of the organization is kind of massive. And, you know, there was one guy, he's amazing. I just love him to pieces. His name's Reed. And I reached out to him. I don't even remember how. No, I do. There was another person I reached out to on LinkedIn who then said, you need to talk to Reed. Reed's your guy. So I called him. He's like, come eat lunch with me. That was it. We went and had lunch. We've been friends for 14 years since then. It's been amazing. There's another one. He just retired this year. Actually, Reed retired as well. But another one who retired. And he was kind of one of those, like, way up on the pedestal to me. And I reached out to him at one point and I said, listen, here, elevator pitch. Here are my goals of where I'm trying to get to. This is where I am. Realistically, I understand I've got some natural hurdles in place just of my personal expectations and principles in life of not wanting to move to LA, not wanting to live in New York at this point in my life. Can I have a conversation with you? And in, I don't know, a compassionate moment, he was willing to, like, absolutely, let's sit down and chat. This was probably 7 or 8 years ago, maybe 10 years ago. So fast forward, now I'm in this role in this organization that I kept trying to get into. And he went to go retire, and I just sent him a note on LinkedIn and said, I'm really happy for you. I hope that it really works out. You really enjoy all your time, because he's really funny. I asked him, what are you going to do when you retire? He's like, I'm going to clean my garage. And I was like, okay. I hope maybe you golf or something too. But we'd had very little interaction in the in-between, between the time he took that time for my call, which is a huge deal, and then the time he was telling everybody he was retiring. And so on LinkedIn, I said, thank you so much. You don't know what that phone call meant to me. And he actually responded on LinkedIn, where there's thousands of people saying things to me. He's like, Anita, you put, like, you know, you go in there and on LinkedIn, you can put the referrals of or references and say, he sat down with me. I'm really just a number. And he was willing to take the time face to face to have this call. And he's like, you're one of like 3 people who ever did that for me on LinkedIn. And I'm like, oh. So it's the little things. Like, people think it's always these grandiose moments. But again, back to our pay somebody a compliment. Sure. Do something that might be meaningful to you for somebody else, and you might be surprised how quickly that actually means something to them. I win a lot of people over with banana bread. Yeah. Have you had my banana bread?
I have not had your banana bread, nor have I had your cinnamon rolls. When sometimes you make them on the weekend and you're like, we're making cinnamon rolls. I'm like, I need to drive out and come have cinnamon rolls with you. So next time you do it, you let me know, and I'll be another sibling. Like,
nobody tells anybody no if you show up with baked goods.
Okay.
Like, make sure you're a good baker first. Let's start
there.
for
sure.
And I'm only good at cinnamon rolls, carrot cake, and banana bread. Those are my things.
Okay.
But if you show up and you're genuinely like, I really am interested in things that you know, and I'd love to learn from you, and you're handing somebody a loaf of banana bread, especially if it's warm, it's a game changer.
Game changer.
Yes. In fact, when TSA shut down, I have been known to travel with banana bread, and it gets flagged in TSA every time. So just so you know, if you ever try to take warm bread through TSA, they're going to want to touch it. So just, wrap it. I really, really advise not wrapping it in tinfoil. I did that once. Only once. So when TSA shut down, a couple things happened. So we work closely with the chamber, like, a lot. Yeah. And so I reached out to the chamber because, of course, they're a government entity, so I can't give them anything, right? But I was like, you know what I can do? I can give them the gift of connections of people who maybe can. And so the chamber and I partnered, and then we kind of started out on this task force of how can we get food to these people? How can we make sure they have the resources that they have? So, in partnership with a lot of our corporate customers and things like that, people were taking things to the airport, and we actually had to start scheduling it because it's Boise, and Boise does such an amazing job of taking care of people, especially its own. So that worked out really well. So when I was traveling during all of that, I took banana bread and I made sure it was warm, and I brought like 16 loaves. And I dropped it off, and they were like, we don't even know what to do with you. And I'm like, oh, you're in luck. I'm so used to that look from my husband that I'll just tell you, just take it in the back. There's butter involved. Just go enjoy.
Just do. That's amazing. Yeah. So listen, when TSA was shut down, I remember we brought snacks because we're like, okay, they have the collection things and anything we can do, right?
Yeah.
I think probably when we met and I really knew the depths of how involved you were with Delta, I told you that when I lived in San Diego, I used to make toffee for all of my flight attendants, pilots, whenever I travel, individually bag them. And a lot of people would tell me, well, why would they take it from you? How do they know that you're not going to poison them? And I'm like, first of all, who would poison their pilot?
Right.
Like, that's like, I'm on this plane as well. And then since I've moved to Idaho, I can't get the altitude, the candy making, right? So I'm just like, I've resorted to other things.
Oh, that's fair.
I love baking as well. That's probably one of our love languages.
I haven't had your pecans for a while. I'm just just
noted,
let you know.
noted, everyone, noted. We'll get them too.
Yes, you're an amazing baker. Also, my father-in-law is exceptionally good at toffee.
I know. You've shared it with me.
So when I convince him to do it again, because that's usually how it goes.
Just watch.
Yeah, I'll just have you come over.
Be like, I just want to watch. I'm not selling it. I just want to be able to give it back.
Because he doesn't know the recipe. He just like takes some of this.
Is he Italian? Because Italians don't operate with
and then
recipes.
just stir it till it's the right color.
Yeah.
And only he can figure out what that exactly is. So we're all goners if he ever decides to depart, which he should never, ever do, because he's grandpa. And we adore him. Yeah.
Yes. Well, I will watch that happily when he wants some company.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
I love it. Oh, let's see. So continuing on the journey, I guess you could call it. I've got friends that are everywhere, right? And the beauty of that is when you're on the road a lot and you're a mom who has created this double-edged sword situation where suddenly you have a kid that's in the middle of nowhere, Minnesota, and you may be in Australia and they need something. What do? You have somebody that you can call, but it has to be reciprocal and it has to be intentional. Like nobody's going to really want to have anything to do with you. I get phone calls sometimes about people who are wanting things. Emails are my favorite. I've never met you before. I don't know who you are. It's 2 lines and they say, I need this from you and I need it by this day. I laugh. I usually laugh with Jason about it. I'm like, I don't even know who this is. I occasionally get the really exciting emails of, can you introduce us to your VP? And I'm like,
oh,
no. First of all, I don't know who you think I am, but unless I know who you are,
right.
There has to be some value there, but you can build those relationships from the most interesting situations ever. We had, when I still worked at the airport, we had an artist come through and I was a big fan of his music, like huge fan. And I thought I knew what he looked like. And apparently in person, he did not look the same as what I thought he looked like in my head. Yeah, strange enough. So I'm having this full-on conversation literally with him. And I'm telling him how much I enjoy his music. Thankfully, I'm only telling everybody who's listening how I put my foot in my mouth. But
it's okay.
I love the music. I think it's got a good message. I think it's amazing. And he's like, that's so great to hear. Thank you so much for telling me that. And then his manager walks over. So I start talking to the manager and I'm like, tell me how many bags we need to go. What are we doing here? How can we help you guys be comfortable? Whatever. And then somehow the manager and I exchanged phone numbers. And so it's been 12, 15 years later. We still talk all the time. And I absolutely adore him. And I will travel across the world and bring him banana bread just to go see him because he's so much fun. But occasionally there may be a need for something that he has or something that I have. And again, it's reciprocal. A relationship that would have never been forged in any way, shape, or form. And the irony of the whole thing is if I had realized that the artist was really standing in front of me, would I have then created the relationship with the manager? Probably not. But my relationship with the artist probably would have been like, thank you so much. So to pay that forward, a few years later after I had met him, he sings a really inspirational song about kind of holding on and keep forging on and doing things like that. And one of my good friends had a grandchild who was diagnosed with terminal cancer. And it was just absolutely devastating. And we're all reeling as a community because we're a fairly tight-knit community. And we're like, what can we do? What can we do to help? What can we do to make a difference when we know that we can't change how this is going to happen? And I thought, oh my gosh, you know what? I'm going to call him. And so I called the manager and I said, listen, this song they love. It's a really dire situation. If you could get him to maybe call this child who's old enough to know your music, that would be great. And he did. And he sang to him and he sang that song to him in the hospital bed. It was amazing. So again, like the power of relationships, but be intentional about it. Like my friend and I, we talk a lot about the most random things that really don't even matter. But then when we need to show up for each other, we show up strong. And it's pretty amazing.
That's a beautiful thing. That's a beautiful story.
Thank you.
Wow.
Yeah. And that's the other part of it. You never know who knows somebody else, right?
That's true.
I used to think that there should be a company out there called I Know a Guy. Just because sometimes people call me and they're like, you know everybody. And I'm like, I might, but I might not think about it unless you share with me. And so, I mean, I know you know this. Jason was sick last fall. It was a really hard time. I was on a plane on my way to Singapore when I got the phone call that I needed to be home, and like immediately. And so I will first of all tell you Starbucks napkins are not good for your face, but they get the job done. Flew home, and we didn't tell a lot of people because we didn't know we had no idea. Like, it was the most interesting time in life because for two middle-aged people who feel like they've had a decently successful life, people were throwing words at us that we understood the meaning for, but didn't understand why now those had meaning in our lives. And I don't open up to people a lot necessarily. I would much rather listen to you all day long, which is ironic that I'm sitting here on a podcast too. But I'd much rather listen to other people and glean things from their experiences and understand where they're coming from and different things like that. And I didn't know how to process and I didn't know what to do. And I knew I have so many caring, kind, generous people in my life that as the word got out, they were going to start asking me what I needed. But I also knew nobody could give me what I needed. And that was really hard. So we kept it pretty tight, quiet for a while, told a few people. But the most beautiful part about that experience is, I had to tell people at work because I was taking time off. Clearly, I wasn't meeting meetings internationally that I was supposed to be at. So there were people who knew and the people that I was really close with. And giving people the opportunity to show up and do the things that they were able to do blew my mind. Like, I have people that I feel like were very good friends at work, right? And I would 100% travel with them. I would barbecue with them anytime, but I sometimes wonder if they feel the same about me. So I am careful about that and try to be respectful and mindful of their position. But the people that were showing up, I had one customer that I work with who lives all the way across the valley from me. I'm going to Costco. What do you need? And I'm like, I'm good. Like, there are 3 of us that live here. We don't. And she's like, no, you didn't hear me. I'm going to Costco and I'm coming to your house. So you should probably tell me what you need or what you would go get if you were just running to Costco. Because we all just buy stuff at Costco just for the sake of buying it. And it was the funniest list we came up with because I was completely brain dead. And I was like, I don't know, flour, beef jerky.
The essentials.
Right. I'm like,
Paper towels.
Yeah. But she did. And it was so unbelievable. So I put it out on Facebook after a little bit. I didn't really go into details. I just said, Jason could use some well wishes. He's having surgery and he could use some well wishes and any prayers anybody wants to send our way. And we had, and I can be serious when I need to be, but also I'm a pretty comical kind of person.
Yes, of course.
So I think my request was send us all the good wishes and exploding glitter things in the mail. Literally got exploding envelopes in the mail.
Did you really?
Yeah, I'm still cleaning up glitter from my house.
Glitter's the worst.
But it was
it's the gift that keeps on giving.
Exactly, yes. It was amazing. I was like, these people understood the assignment. And then I also created the wall in our house and hung up all the well wishes and everything so Jason could see those. But to let people show up in your life is its own kind of interesting thing. Because I think while we're building these lives and we're building these relationships and we're taking detours, right? Like, who knew I'd be a college dropout and then have an MBA?
Absolutely.
Right? Who would have thought I'm applying for jobs with Delta within Seattle? I could go to Seattle. I would do that. And then I get a phone call from my friend Reed that says, hey, do you still live in Boise? Because nobody knows where anybody lives when you work for an airline. So you just show up where we were supposed to. And I'm like, yeah. And he's like, we're hiring in Boise. And I'm like, what? Oh, he's like, do you want to interview? And I was like, are you serious? 14 years, Reed. We've been friends for 14 years. I think you know the answer to this.
You know.
So it's things like that. And I put on our Christmas card a couple of years ago, you don't know all the people you're going to love yet. And it's funny because Jason and I are now transitioning into this empty nester phase as of the last couple of weeks. And I keep thinking about that, like, no, I just want all my people back. I want to go back to my kids being 10 years old. I want to go back to them being 12 years old. I want to go through all this again. But at the same time, I start thinking about that. I'm thinking forward, like, how many people am I going to get to meet this year? How many new people am I going to be able to work with soon? And then maybe, just maybe, someday one of my children will bring me a grandbaby. That would be amazing.
That would be full circle.
Yeah.
As a mother, I would assume that's like the moment, right? When you're good children, then have babies, then bring you their babies to
to spoil. It's going to be bad.
spoil.
It'll be so bad.
I was gonna say to give like life experience, but no, it's gonna be to spoil. It's
It'll be
also to
bad.
give life experience.
Also, but that's their job. They'll figure it out
They will, like you did
one
in
step
so
at a
many
time.
ways.
Yeah.
I think it's a beautiful thing. You never know how many people you're gonna get to love.
Yeah.
I think it hits deep because it really kind of makes you aware and forces you to see that when maybe they can be closed off in life, depending on what life throws at them, right? These detours.
Yeah.
It throws a lot. For some more than others. For others, maybe they can handle it easily. Or I always find that these really amazing people in life get hit with some of the hardest things. And it's all in the way they overcome it and they get through it. That's when the character, the growth, everything just builds on that. And it actually sets the tone for how you get through something. Because if you just wallow and kind of spiral down with maybe bad news or whatever it is, whether it's health, whether it's work, whatever the situation, it's how you get through it that kind of forges, like it's how you forge on and how it kind of creates the person that you're supposed to be and you're consistently growing into. So I think it's beautiful. I don't even think that, right? And it's not that I'm small-minded because I'm not,
Sure.
but I just don't think I've put that into my mind of really allowing myself to be like, oh my gosh. I mean, moving here for me alone, knowing
Huge.
nobody,
Yes.
having to make friends, having to connect with people. It has been that thing that whenever my mom is here visiting, and like last week when we were together and I was picking her up, she was like, I love her for you. Like, I love that you are both friends and that you found each other.
I love that.
Because I have been very blessed here to create, remember coming single, no kids, nothing, you know, I'm not joining mom groups.
Where's
I'm
your
not
community?
getting into this thing.
You
I have
bet.
to create this community. So I created it with some really extraordinary people and just very grateful for all of them and you, because you're one of those people that I'm just like, I could call you for anything at any point.
Absolutely.
I don't know what time zone you're going to be in necessarily all the time, but
It doesn't matter.
you'll get it. You'll get the message.
Yes.
So
Well, you know, everybody needs somebody, right? Everybody needs their own personal board of directors, right? And everybody needs somebody who challenges them. Everybody needs somebody who encourages them. You know, sometimes you just need somebody who will listen, right? How many times you're just like, who's that person that I can just unload to? And Jason and I always try to be mindful of that when we're talking to each other, because he's my number one person, of course, but sometimes he doesn't say things that I like. Strong, independent woman. And so then I'm like, why did he say that? He's like, oh, wait. Did you want me just to listen, or did you want me to listen and give you feedback? Because those are two completely separate things.
yes, they are.
Sometimes I need to think about that. I'm like, I don't know. I thought I wanted one thing, but here I am wanting the other. But you're absolutely right. Like, I feel like, number one, I love your mom too. And I don't think I've actually
Have you
met her in person. No.
This is wild. You need to. She knows you though. Like
Yes.
I think she knows. She just knows you. Like,
Yeah.
oh, where's that Anita? And blah blah blah. Oh, Anita's so beautiful. Oh, Oh, you were with Anita again? Like, she just knows. And I'm like, are you stealing my friendship? Like,
That is so cute.
yeah, we got to
love
get
it.
you with my mom.
Yes, we totally do. Because I equally, through you, just what I've heard and clearly the amazing person that she's raised, she has to be an incredible
She's
individual.
a stellar
There's no way
human.
around that. But yeah, we met 3 years ago and here we are. And it feels like we have been friends forever. And I look back on my life and I think it's kind of entertaining. Actually, I have a pen pal from Wisconsin. She and I have been friends since we were 8 years old. She's a way better pen pal than I am. Like, she did a really good job over the decades keeping us in touch. But it was fantastic because we went back to Wisconsin. So my middle child decided randomly after we'd already moved him to Eastern Idaho for college, he didn't want to go to school there anymore because that's what kids do. Who does he sound like? I don't know.
I don't know.
I've never heard of this
Hot?
nonsense
Meet
before.
the kettle.
So we moved him to Nowheresville, Minnesota in January.
Oh my gosh.
I thought that this was the worst form of child abuse that you could come up with. It was negative 39 degrees with the wind chill.
Oh.
I forgot my gloves and I was gassing up the car and I got back in the car and he's like, Mom, are you okay? And I was like, no, nothing about this is okay. None of this is okay. I have to leave. And me leaving now means I'm sleeping in the Seattle airport tonight. And I don't care because I'm not staying here.
No.
Are you sure you want to? So I left him. And then for spring break, after I'd gone back home and thawed out in Boise in January, right? We were going to go see, he only had a couple of days off that he could go for spring break. And I was like, let me come and see you. And I was like, we need to do something. What are we going to do? And I said, let's go to Lambeau Field. We'll go to Wisconsin, Minnesota, close enough. Yeah. So I called her on a whim and I'm like, I gave you 0 notice. That is also a very common Anita thing. If I'm blowing through town, I'm like, hey, we should catch up. I'll be there in 10 minutes. So we connected and she goes, you should go see my mom. And her mom still lived next door to the house that I lived in. And we went there and we had so much fun visiting with her and just kind of reminiscing because it had been 25 years since I had lived there. Oh my God. But her mom had treated me like, one of her kids. And so we just kind of picked up where we left off and her mom passed away like 6 months later. And I was so grateful that I took the time to just say hi to her and we could just chat for a little while because she was so meaningful in my life. Like, I knew she cared about me like a parent. And so it's a lot of times like some of those things. And, my friend that brought me the flower, the friends that you have that you can count on that are your pillars that you can pick up from any time. You can go chat with them, whatever. If you need something, they'll be there for you. But it's amazing. And I know your mom and you would be the exact same way. So that's pretty amazing.
Life puts the right people in your path, I think.
Timing is everything.
Timing is everything. It's up to us to recognize it.
Yeah.
It's back to timing. But they will be there. You just don't know until you know, right? You have to figure it out. And maybe the timing's wrong and maybe it's the thing that you revisit later, like, oh, that person.
Yeah.
But I feel a lot of times when you know, if you see something in someone that you're like, oh, for me, it's always when someone lets out a little bit of dark humor, especially in the beginning stages of getting to know them. Because, primarily when you meet someone, everyone's on kind of, especially if it's in a business event,
You bet.
best foot forward, first impressions are everything. And it's like, yeah, but I want to know what they're thinking. and so I like when that resonates. A good example of this is meeting people at leadership conference in Sun Valley.
Yeah.
If I don't know someone, that's really best foot forward in the beginning, at least in the morning, during the day, during the nighttime is a different story. But during the day, during those sessions, if one thing that's just happened to me this past year, I met someone, I sat with him, we were laughing about how, and I didn't know him, laughing about how someone was announced as a speaker and the name was nothing like the way it was spelled. And so we look at each other and we're like, yeah, oh, totally. Didn't you know that this was pronounced like, obviously everybody in the English language knows that, not. And it was just that moment of when other people then had the same situation of their names not being pronounced how they were spelled. I would hear him over my shoulder say something and I'm like, I think we're going to be homies. I think you're letting out your true self a little bit and not so proper. And I think that we all connect on these things.
Absolutely.
We connect on these legitimate, human, real connections of whether you meet someone and they're crying, whatever it is. And
Absolutely.
I appreciate that so much when people are just open to being who they are. We've lost that a lot, I think, generally, like a very generalized statement, but so many people have lost that because they're performing.
On your last podcast, you talked about the topic was in being in a hurry, right? We're all so hurried, which, I'm an oxymoron here saying this, but we're also hurried. We have our devices. We have everything we need to do. We have everything we need to accomplish. Like on my notebook that I carry around with me everywhere, I switch out sticky notes every few days and I tape it to the front because I have to write down everything I have to follow up on, or somebody's getting lost in there. But you're absolutely right, because you can hear it, you feel it, and it like almost touches your core. Maybe it's your nervous system. I'm not sure what it is. But when somebody does something just a little bit off and you're like, oh, I see you. I see this. And then that cultivates like a conversation. And then you're like, I have no idea who this person is. I have no idea what their experience is or what their background is, but I know that I like what I'm getting out of this right now. And then how can we work on this in the future too? And it's amazing to build on those types of things.
Yes.
And I have people that will call me and ask career advice, which I think is humorous because my career was all over the place. Just different things, I just tried several things, does this seem like this is where the fit is? And it always kept coming back to Delta, which I certainly appreciate at this point. But it's funny when I get these people that will reach out and say, I need to get into management. I need to be there tomorrow, and I don't need to be here or I need to work remotely. And also I need this much time off. And I'm like, okay, slow your roll a second. Let's be more genuine let's have a conversation. I get it that you're calling somebody who you think might have all the answers. I'm never going to have all the answers. And I don't know anybody who does. If you expect people to have all the answers, you probably should just start praying. Let's just have a conversation. Let's slow this down a little bit so we can explain to you, like, how do we build on what you have? Because clearly you have enough confidence and quality of background and things like that to be making this phone call. But let's build this relationship. Let's be intentional and genuine about things. And maybe in the mix of all of it, have some fun.
Yeah.
Wild.
I really think that feeling of, oh, I see you. Like I caught that when you meet people and they let that true self out. I think it brings us back to a time where it's probably also hitting a point of nostalgia of when we grew up, there was no internet like there is now. There was no social media. Everyone was very real in the sense of what you see is what you get. And if it wasn't, it was very well spotted, right? The people who were overly whatever in school or in business, whatever.
Absolutely.
But I think we crave it because we're just like, oh, was that how it was? All the
Right.
time? Was that normal?
Yes.
Right. What is normal anymore?
Yeah.
That I feel like is normal when you can let a little bit of yourself pop out at a business thing where you don't know me and I don't know you, but it's the same way as when I met you. There was something at that table in talking to you at that after hours at a car dealership in Boise, like on Main or something. Like I remember what I was wearing. I remember everything. And there was something there that I'm like, yep. Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So, thank you for that because it's now years later and I love it. But
likewise.
Yeah.
No, that's great. Mm-hmm. No, I think you're exactly right when you talk about the nostalgia of it. Like how many of us think back to, who doesn't fantasize a little bit about Christmases gone by, right? And the magic and that feeling. And sometimes I think about, I'm trying to remember the name of the movie where the kids are just walking down the railroad tracks, right? There's no background noise.
Stand By Me?
Yes, they don't have to be anywhere else. They're just being kids, right? And I think that especially as we get to these stages as adults, right? And life is going busy. A lot of us are now maybe thinking about our parents' health and caring for them. And then we're getting kids out the door or, we're just trying to figure out where do I fit in next? How does this make sense? That's one that I go back to. I'm like, can I just be 9 again and walking down a gravel road and hearing that sound under my feet and enjoying the heat of the day and just that moment, right? And I think that you're right. Like, when we connect with somebody on that level, and sometimes it helps when you're in a room and you don't know anything about anybody who's in there. There's not a program that's been handed out with a title, with who works for what company, anything like that. I don't like to tell people who I work for necessarily. I would rather talk to them about who they are Jason equally works for a fairly well-known company. And so we go places. And I remember we were at a chamber event in Pocatello, which was pretty funny. And we're just talking to this person. And we just had a great conversation. The two of us together, we're having a good time. And the whole event goes by. And then after it's done, he's like, so tell me a little bit about yourselves. Who do you work for? And we both kind of look at each other like, oh, well, I work for Delta and he works for XYZ company. And he's like, and you got married? And we're like, no. We started those jobs long after we got married. It's fine. But it's kind of funny because, again, back to that, I would rather know who you are and what matters to you and what's important than tell you anything about me, even though that might be cool, but still, like, there's so much more depth to it because it's about the people that I know and the relationships I have, not just the brand that is associated with that. So let's connect because maybe I'm talking to another music manager that travels the world. I want to know where his favorite place in the world is. Who cares about, I don't know, whatever is in your wallet or whatever else is going on. Like, talk to me. Let's go on. Let's talk about some of this stuff. So, it's like, again, it's just getting to know people and what makes them tick is really, what's the point of life if you don't have a relationship? What is the point?
It's so lonely. And where a lot of us can benefit, and we do benefit a little bit from solitude, a little bit of isolation. It's good to reset. There's something so beautiful about building those relationships with other people, and they're all so different. And it's fun when you get those people together, some of them, and you just get them together, and then you see those connections form with those people that you're like, I knew this would be a good fit. Like, I knew it would be a good fit. And you're really good at that in the sense of you're a great connector of people because you've spent so much time delving into these relationships and getting to know these people. You said something beautiful the other day to me. You said understanding people and what's important to them is the key to success.
Absolutely.
And that just stems from all of it. It's really, that's the main point of you have to understand people. In sales roles, right? We're both in a type of sales role, but we're in relationship businesses because without your relationships, you have nothing. Nobody, the joke with salespeople in general, I'm generalizing, is I don't want to be hard sold, right? And it's that a lot of people will always use the car dealership as an example because it's now or never, and it's now or never. And that's pressure selling. And that to me is so gross because it's so unnatural to me. And it also really makes me nervous if I'm ever experiencing it myself. So I'm just like, don't even, because you should know why someone wants to buy a car. And use those same questions of getting to know them, getting to know why they need the bigger car or the smaller, whatever it is, what life changes just happened. It's the same thing that I do in getting to know clients for homes.
Absolutely.
Because you have to know what life events, what's going on, what are the changes. And I've become very close to all of my clients. And really, I love relationships. Relationships are my whole, it's relationships and my health, right? The two most important things to me. But they're the root of everything. They're the reason I have any amount of success I have. They're the reason I have great friendships is because I pour into them. And I take immense pride and pleasure in that because it's like, I love doing this. I mean, that's all I want to do is just meet people.
Right. Can you imagine? I mean, just for a second, it would be the most mind-blowing experience if you didn't understand why somebody needed to buy a house. Like, I can't even fathom that. There are no words. So you're exactly right. And that's what makes you so good at what you do. And the beauty of it is that you get to work with people because you're so good that you get to say, okay, this person gets it. This person understands it. I don't want to be with the person who's just like not so nice, maybe.
No.
Because I want to help build a community for these people I'm now bringing into the community and help them feel what I feel here too.
Yeah. And that's why I also love when I get to work with a counterpart on another side of a transaction who is equally as committed to the success, not only of just the transaction, but that this is the right, that everything is like done proper, that communicates, that does all the things that you're like, oh, thank you. Because there's so many who don't, or who are just more hard salesy. And I'm kind of like, oh, I don't know. Like, I don't know about this one.
Right. And like you get your instinct kicks in.
Absolutely.
And we were like, okay, either we need to slow down and go back to the beginning and really have another frank conversation or really uncover some more things, or maybe we're not going to align. And that's okay too, because everybody has some value somewhere that they can offer to you. And I like to tell people sometimes look at it for a season, right? Like it may be a transaction. You're in that with them right now because you have to accomplish something, or you need to also learn something about yourself.
Sure.
And you can then walk away. You can accomplish the goal you set out to meet, but whichever. But you are brilliant in understanding, like, I need to know things and dig deep. And I love watching your videos on your real estate because I feel like you put so much effort into it. Now, granted, my real estate days were years and years and years and years ago. But I'm like, the amount of energy you put into those is contagious and amazing. And they're so fun to watch.
Thank you. I have, you know what? I have a lot of fun. I feel like my job is also one of those where when you're helping people achieve a goal, especially when it's something financially, I mean, a house is one of the biggest assets in your financial portfolio.
Right.
So you want to make sure that you're guided properly, but you also want to make sure that everything aligns as it should. Right? Because sometimes there's things that happen in transactions that are almost deal busters, and where a client can sometimes get really disappointed in that. It's bringing it back to the, hey, this will align, I promise, as it should.
Right.
And if it's blocking you at step 3, God forbid, what was going to happen at step 8?
Right.
I mean, you don't want to know. You don't want to know.
Right.
So it's things like that. So I do love when I get, and I'm very fortunate that I can work with really amazing humans as clients. And then I'm even more fortunate when I get to work with the counterpart and representing the other side who also does their job and takes it seriously, but also to the level of like guttural involvement that I do, because that matters. That it really does, just to kind of have everything cohesive and ensure kind of easier sailing on both sides for the clients. This is all for the clients. None of it's for me.
Yeah.
So it's great when you have those. But just back to the relationships, I think that it just makes me feel full having relationships in my life and knowing that I put effort into them.
Right.
And you don't always get it back.
No.
And those are the lessons, right?
Exactly.
But just because someone doesn't pour into me maybe as much as I pour into them, it doesn't mean that I recognize it, but it's like, oh, okay, well, are you going to keep giving 150% or are you going to allocate your time and energy where it's best needed?
Yeah.
And it's usually that, because you can only try so hard if someone doesn't. But you learn that.
You do.
That's the beauty about life. It kind of just shows itself.
It does. Isn't it interesting? The timing. And again, timing is everything, because it just might not be the right time for that person.
Sure.
And the most interesting pieces of life I find are when it comes back full circle, like we've talked about, right? Like you might have maybe 5 years ago when you first got here, started working with somebody, they decided they wanted to go list with somebody else. And you're like, oh, stabbed my heart. I worked so hard. I cared. I was there. And then 5 years later, they come back and they're like, oh, I might have been a little bit too emotional. I'm sorry that I handled it that way. Maybe we can look at this moving forward.
Sure.
That's a pretty, so I almost didn't graduate with my MBA.
Oh.
I almost just walked away from it.
Well, you were so close. Well, you did it, but
I had one class left, but it was accounting, remember?
oh my gosh.
Statistics all day long, accounting, forget about it. It doesn't make any sense, but it's A brain, B brain fight, I guess. So I walk into this class. Sorry. My advisor, who has walked me through in the entirety of both degrees at this point. I'd given up. I had not taken a class for a year and a half. She's like, Anita, come finish. It's one class. And I'm like, I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it. I'm not going to be successful. I don't need the degree. I just did it because I wanted to do it. I'm not doing it. And she's like, Anita, come on. And I'm like, no, I'm not doing it. So she goes, there's a night class. I'm going to sign you up for it. Show up the first day. If you don't like it, then you can walk out and you can say, haha, I told you so. All right, fine. So I walked in, no joke. The professor is a kid that I stood next to during graduation. Now, keep in mind, my parents moved me to Idaho for 1 year of high school. So I feel like this is all falling into fate's way, right? So I walk in, he's my age. I'm like, we can relate. I know him. And I'm like, oh, hey. And he's like, oh, hi, how are you? We catch up for a little bit. Next guy that walks into the classroom, my dentist that I've had since, again, moving back to Idaho. And I'm like, why are you here? You're a dentist. And he's like, yeah, but I need to learn how to run my business. Genius. Okay, that makes sense to me. Next guy walks in. My neighbor from across the street. I'm like, what is happening? Am I being pranked right now? Like, I don't know what's going on here. And he's like, no, he's retired military. Amazing, amazing guy. And he's like, the government's paying for my classes. So I figured, why not? Okay. There were a grand total of maybe 9 people in that class, 6 classes. I even took one from New York while I had to be there, gone for work. They let me do it on Zoom. And this was pre-COVID. So, it wasn't as smooth as it is now, but it worked out. And then hopefully nobody gets in trouble for me sharing this information. But we ended up having a potluck because Anita decided to cook for everybody. And we're able to do a group final assignment to pass the class. Anita passed accounting. I think it might have been a C+, but listen, C's get degrees, okay?
C's get degrees. They do.
So again, still love my dentist, still love my neighbor, absolutely adore the professor now. Like, I can't sing his praises enough. But again, building those relationships. Here we were 20 years past graduation, and suddenly we had no reason to be in contact with each other. And now randomly, for whatever reason, if I just decide to drop him a note, I will, because I feel so indebted to him that I actually was able to accomplish such a huge milestone.
Yes.
And to him, he was like, Anita, it was no big deal. I'm like, no, you don't understand.
You're like, you don't understand.
You don't understand. So there you go.
What a beauty of just this small world, too. Every now and then we get reminders of, oh my gosh, it really is a small world.
Yes.
You have all those connections in the same room. Was there banana bread involved in that class?
Of course
I'm
there
sure.
was.
I was going to say there.
Absolutely.
I think there would have had to be.
Had to been.
Oh my gosh. What are your best tips for operating under pressure?
Ooh, that's a great question. Sometimes you just have to pull from all the ounces of confidence that you have and know that you can do it. I can't tell you how many times that I've had to stare down a situation and I'm like, I know. But I'm also the only person that can handle it. You have to be able to realize there is going to be another side. So just understanding that, embracing the suck and getting through it's the best way to do it.
Yeah. I think that's crucial. What kind of parting advice would you like to give about, we'll keep honing on relationships.
Okay. I think people need to travel. Now, again, this is a core principle for me. So it's something, and I don't care if it's traveling to some place in the Treasure Valley, or if it's traveling somewhere globally, or if it's going to Yellowstone Park. I think it's important for people to get out, to talk to people that aren't in their immediate atmosphere, to just understand how people think and maybe give yourself a second to pause. Don't listen to talk. Listen to digest. And listen to what those people are saying and understand why they might think a little bit differently, because that will help you to pause more listening to others in the future.
I think that's compelling. I love that. There's a quote that I heard years ago, and it's, if you're the smartest person in the room, then you're in the wrong room.
100%.
I love absorbing from people. It's so fun. And just back to what you said, listen more than you talk, take in more, because at every moment, and that's the whole reason I wanted to do this podcast, was because we learn and grow so much from our own experiences, but also what others are willing to share.
Absolutely.
So it's how we learn, because we can never experience, I'll never go through and experience everything you have in life, and vice versa. And it's just a beautiful circle. I think that it makes the world go round when you listen and you absorb and you put it in your mind and you actively choose to grow. I think that's crucial.
I think that's beautiful. You've summed that up very well. Thank you.
Thank you for coming on today.
This was amazing.
This was so fun.
I was so nervous.
No,
this was great.
It's so easy.
Yes.
It's just a conversation among girlfriends. That's
you
it.
make it so relaxing. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Well, thank you for being here.
Tell Mom I said hi.
I will. Tell your fam.
Always.
Bye, everyone.